Hi everybody. I just want to make a quick video. Don't want this to take a long time. I and yes, this is going to be about Russia. Um, I want to start with things that God showed me about Vladimir Putin in Russia in 2002, 2004, and 2008. Quite a long ways back, because I think it's important to begin there. Um, God showed me very clearly that Vladimir Putin um, is a ravenous wolf. He is not a good person. He also seeks vengeance on the United States. This has been in his heart. And I found that very interesting and curious back when he showed me those things. And that hasn't changed. There's been a desire and an agenda with him regarding us. And it does go back to the fall of the USSR and the way it dismantled in 1989, 1990. So I want to share that first. It's not an opinion, because I had no opinion about this man. I didn't know anything in 2002 at all about him. So that was from God, not an opinion. The thing I'd like to share next is, uh, you know, um, God had showed me, I believe it was in 2004, 2005, and then again in 2008, I think, at some point. He showed me that Russia would have a larger role, that they would have a greater number of nations. He didn't say it was like a reforming of the USSR, just that Russia would have a rule, but it would not last very long. So, wanted to share that. And I'm trying to be as simple as I can with this. According to some things that the Lord showed me prophetically, um, a lot more has actually been has come to pass than I had thought. I shared that God had showed me that the alleged hacking of the cyber hacking of our election was one of the things that was going to disrupt the election, the election process. Um, and we have on our mind a lot of times. I know I did. I've done this many times. I have in my mind, when God gives me a word about something that's going to happen, I imagine it happening a certain way. It's almost like an automatic human thing. And the best example I will give of something like that, that's easier to understand, is the way that people thought and still, like, those who are not saved, those how they viewed the Messiah and how he would be, that he would be a king, he would have a throne on the earth, he would overthrow the Roman Empire. This was back in Jesus' day, and those who have not accepted him as Messiah of the Jewish faith, they still have a very this kind of view, more of a political view. And of course, we know that things did not happen according to the way that they saw the prophecies being fulfilled. So that's kind of what happened with me in this. After the Lord had showed me that the alleged cyber hacking was one of the things. He said, "There's more." I prayed, and as I prayed, I remembered that God had shown me, and I saw it very clearly, that it was a foreigner. It looked like a foreigner. It looked like in the vision like a terrorist, and even an Islamic terrorist. That it was a couple of them that got into an important place in Washington D.C. and they got a bunch of information off of a computer. And I knew the information that they got off of the computer, this cyber thing, this cyber attack, whatever, was going to be a big threat to our national security. Now, God had shown me, more about an attack in D.C. That involved, these guys coming out with guns and much more like a terrorist attack in the sense of like they really wanted to do some physical damage. Well, I kind of lumped all of this together. Like, I thought it was all the same thing. And it was kind of odd because I knew that, I don't know, I could see that there was some discrepancy with what God had showed me first about them getting the computer, the information that threatened national security of the U.S. There was a difference in that than what I was seeing with the people with guns and even firing the weapons. But when I first got that information from God that okay, this allegation is part of this is one of the things, I began to pray, and I remembered specifically this stood out to me when I was praying. I was like, okay, Lord, okay, so this has happened. There's this allegation going on. What about the DC attack that I've seen and the people at the computers? And he said, well, that already happened. And it was a little confusing to me. But of course, that stayed in my mind because I didn't understand, and I've been trying to understand, and I think God wanted me to really pay attention. And I think I remember asking Him, and I really didn't get an answer at that moment. But I realize now that what God was showing me, and I started praying about this again yesterday. After I had read quite a bit of news and how things have really heated up between the U.S. and Russia. We've got troops, not just NATO troops. Now we have U.S. troops. And there's all this that this is starting to look scary. So I really went to the Lord in prayer with tears and just, God, what's going on? Show me what's going on here. What do we do? And He did show me. He said, He showed me. He's like, that information that I showed you with that person that was, a terrorist, getting that information from the computer, it was representative of Russia being of Russia hacking, doing a cyber hacking of the election, and I was a bit shocked. But I started looking back at everything that God had shown me through the months about this, and one of the things that I do remember that He showed me, and it's on my blog. I don't know that I put it in a video. Was that Vladimir Putin specifically, and then there were some other nations like Middle Eastern nations, He showed me, were actually funding, and I believe I said ISIS, but I've learned since then there's so many extremist groups. It could have been, it could have been a different even Islamic extremist group, some kind of extremist group. And I'm being really careful with words because I don't want to make another mistake like I have. Funding ISIS, funding Islamic terrorists, that Russia was definitely doing that. But of course, their agenda and their idea with funding it in certain ways is not, doesn't have anything to do with, it has to do with Putin's own agenda and his vengeance that he seeks and the power that he wants. And he does want power. So, that's very interesting. I don't know. I mean, I have heard nothing about anybody saying that any of this has been tied directly through or with. Russia hasn't done this through, or anyone that I've heard of that's Islamic extremist or any kind of extremist. So that kind of just hangs there for me. It's like, okay, Lord, show me, help me understand. But He showed me, and He told me. He said they did. Russia, Putin, they did a cyber hacking. And you got to understand here, guys, I'm not going to say that unless God told me that. It's not my opinion. I have not really had an opinion on it. I mean, it's been alleged in my mind. And I did see the information, some of the stuff that had come out yesterday, and I thought, wow, maybe there really is evidence of this. But I don't trust the media. The media is very corrupt. I don't think a lot of people realize that they're like CNN, MSNBC, and Fox are all actually owned by these same people. And it's just like when I found that out, I was like shocked. I was just floored because, you really think that they have such different opinions and views of things that they wouldn't be all, owned and ran by the same, well, owned by the same people. But they are. And they also own a lot, the most, like, I think it's 25 major newspapers across the United States and some other channels. So I don't trust news. I don't trust any of it. I do listen to some things and I'll read some articles, but I do that going into reading it and thinking, okay, I'm not going to just believe what I'm reading. I'm going to read it and then I'm going to pray about it. I like Mr. Doom. He does like a daily news where he puts together news from a lot of different news places, internet, and, you know, television, whatever, cable. And I don't always agree with all of it. A lot of it doesn't, it's like I feel like it's not something that's probably true news based on me just praying about it, not my own opinions and my thoughts. And see, that's a big problem we have in this nation. It was done by design for us to hold so much of our spiritual views and connect them so much with political things. Okay, and what I mean by that, I mean that like I have a relative in my family that was so supportive of Hillary Clinton during the election that she unfriended anyone who was going to vote for Trump. And she even went as far to say that if you vote for Donald Trump, you're not a real Christian. And I don't believe that. And that's where we're talking about crossing lines. When you begin to judge other people based on who they vote for, that's completely unscriptural and it really doesn't mean anything. You know, I've seen Trump supporters do the same thing. If you voted for Hillary Clinton, I don't know how you could have. How can you call yourself a Christian? And usually it's based on, the being appalled by abortion, you know. And I get that. But what I've learned when I like talk to people on both sides of this is I find that if they're Christians, usually they have good motives behind why they're choosing to vote, whether it's truthful things or not. Okay, so hear that. In other words, I talk to people about that supported Hillary Clinton, and some of these Christians are like, well, I believe that they have more of a concern and they care more for the poor and minority groups and things like that. Whether it's true or not, this is what they believe, and that is why they voted. And those are not bad things. You're not a bad tree. If you can't judge you judge a tree by its fruit, and the fruit is never going to be who somebody voted for. Okay, because only God knows those things. And I've heard the same thing from Trump supporters. They have very good reasons that are from a good heart as to why they decided to vote for him. So I just want to make that because it's been by design to do that, to really mix our politics and our own spiritual views and judgments together. And that's just, it's been very destructive. And it's been by design. They want to divide Americans, divide Christians, and it's worked wonderfully. We don't really realize what's going on exactly. They've worked hard at this. So I encourage people to turn off InfoWars or Rachel Maddow or whatever it is more often. It's important to know what's going on. And don't go around always talking about it and putting comments on people's videos. I can't tell you what to do technically, but my point is we spend way too much time focused on our opinions and our views and what we think is right. And we put a lot of energy into that. And as far as, because we're Americans, it's a very, we have the right. We can say what's on our mind. But we have to really stop ourselves and say, okay, how much of this should I be doing? And how much, I honestly, I have witnessed Christians spending more time doing that, watching the news and commenting and coming out against the people that they disagree with politically. I've seen them spend more time on that than spend time in prayer and spend time in the Word of God. Big problem there. You know what? God is our ultimate news source. You can go to Him and ask Him. You can go to Him and ask Him. You have to really be objective. You know, you have to be able to set down your opinions and your views. And that's not easy to do for Americans. It's not really easy. It has been hard for me to do that, but it took a while to develop that, where I would really, really try to set aside and just literally say, God, I want to hear what you're saying. Because you are the one, you are the truth. You have the truth. And I can trust you for the truth. So I may not, I may probably have a lot of people, getting mad or disagreeing. Like comments, that's fine. I'm ready for that, and I love you still. I don't think you're a bad person for that. I don't. But I did want to share a couple more things. One of the things that helped me, and God brought this to me yesterday when I was praying, and I was just weeping. I was. He showed me that, he reminded me of a dream that I had about Ukraine. I had this dream, if I'm thinking right, it was right after the election. And it was kind of odd because the Ukraine, I don't know much about them. So anyway, in the dream is like a 2-level motel, and on each door, and it was small. It wasn't like there was a lot of rooms, but on each door there was the name of a nation. And me and these other people, and we were being very. It was like a covert operation. It almost seemed like we didn't want to get caught. We didn't want anybody seeing us, and so we snuck upstairs to the second level, and we walked toward. We went to our right, and we walked all the way to the last door, and the word Ukraine was on that door. And it was cracked up. It was cracked just slightly. So we gently pushed the door further open, and we saw a guy, and he was standing there, and he had a lab coat on, like a scientist or a doctor. And there was this machine. It was like, it was very much like technology, a technological device. And then I saw that from this device was connected. It was connected to the heads of 3 men, right in the center of their head, right here. There was like a wire with something on it that was fastened to their head, and it was 3 men, and I knew that they were Ukrainian. I knew that they were, and they were laying in a bed, and each of them had this connected to their head with this wire, sort of. Well, the guy saw me, the guy with the lab coat on, and I could see the anger in his eyes. And when he saw me, he did something, and immediately the things on the middle of the 3 men, and they were unconscious. Okay, when they had these things in their heads, they were laying in this bed and they were completely unconscious. But the guy with the lab coat did something to the device, and these things fell off of their heads. And when they fell off of their heads, they immediately became conscious, and we felt a great sense of danger from the man in the lab coat more than anything. We knew he was angry, and we took off. It was like, oh, we got caught. But God showed me that this dream has to do with, in some way, form, or fashion, it does have to do with Russia and the hacking. Now, I've heard the Ukraine, they've been tossed around. The nation of Ukraine has been tossed around as being the ones who did this. There's also been said that Russia did not just do it alone; they did it through some other nations. And I think Ukraine was one of the ones that they mentioned specifically, which I'm not surprised by that, because Russia has done a lot of damage to the Ukrainians, and that's my opinion based on information that did come out. That there has been, well, all know there has been conflict between Russia and Ukraine. You've got Croatia, you've got this dividing, and I did read that the Ukraine had hacked Russia, and some of the information that was leaked or came out of that was that there was evidence that Russia played a very important part in the civil war there. Um, I haven't prayed whether or not all of that information is like right, but God showed me that the Ukraine was somehow a part of this. Okay. Um, so I wanted to share that. The last thing I want to share quickly is, as I was praying yesterday, also last night I started praying. I went to another prayer time. I was praying again, and I saw a vision, and I saw Vladimir Putin, and he had a sword in his hand, and then I saw, and it's funny because I could not see the face, so I don't know if it was Obama or Trump, but I knew it represented the American president. And I think it was interesting. There was a reason that God did not show me the the face or the person. There's a reason for that. So I'm holding out for that one and just waiting for God to show me. But I saw that person, that president that I couldn't see the face of America, with a sword too. They both had great swords. Well, America, we struck first. We came down with he came down, or she, or whatever it was, came down with a sword, and immediately it was blocked very firmly by Vladimir Putin. And what I saw go on, like they were the ones that struck first, or tried to strike first and do damage. The Americans and the American, I'd say the American. But I saw this kind of go on, and I never saw like any bloodshed going on yet. So I don't know that it represents war or not. I think it represents the conflict most likely. But I saw this go on, and what I started seeing was Putin was not. He barely moved, and yet he was being successful in blocking and striking. Um, However, the United States president was like moving around a lot, and there was like, you could tell they were perspiring, and there was so much energy being put into it, and it was very taxing on the American president, very taxing. And it was so easy to see that Putin stayed strong and firm and almost unmoved, and America got weaker and weaker, the American president. um, I never saw like it came to an end and there was a winner and a loser. That was as far as the information went. Now, when I get anything like this, when I usually get any dream revision, I know that the first and primary reason, usually, when I get something, is to pray about it. Of course, I'm very concerned to see America looking, the American president looking exhausted and tired and weaker, weaker. So, and I'm always praying for my nation. I love my country very much. Um, and I do pray for the world as well. So, I wanted to share all these things about Russia. These are all the different things I've been told. More of the prophecy that God gave me has come to pass than I realized. Will there be a terrorist attack in D.C. In the next month, on Inauguration Day even? I'm not sure. Um, and will there be a natural disaster? That's one of the other things God showed me when I was praying about whatever would disrupt the election. I did see like it looked like a star meteorite hitting out west and causing damage. Will that happen in the next few weeks? I don't know. But I do feel right now, even after God showed me more had come to pass than I realized, I do feel like that there is something else that is going to happen. Um, that is, it's going to affect the 2016 election in some way. So with that, I encourage you all to pray, um, to not get too caught up in your political views and what you think, as far as your opinions go, and seek God for the truth. He will show you things. He'll show you actually what's going on. Next week they're gonna supposedly, bring out in more of a full way, all this information, evidence, of the Russian hacking. Now, God showed me that Russia was involved with what I saw going on with the guy at the computer, getting that information. And he did also say that Putin was very clever, is very clever, and most likely, I mean, I have to go back and look if it said he will not be found out to be guilty, okay? Or if it said it's very hard, it'd be very hard for them for people to find out uh, that he was involved in this because he has done it very cleverly in a very kind of sophisticated way. Um, so that's all that I've ever been shown about Russia. Russia will have a rule. We'll see that happen. It's not going to last long. I don't know if he's going to gain, back these nations, some nations from the USSR kind of thing or not, or what it is. I saw the sword kind of fighting, and I saw the U.S. getting exhausted and Russia standing firm and strong. Um, and God spoke to me and showed me that the Russians did hack the election. They made an attempt. Oh, and I wanted to add something else here. This is something that bothers me. People think, well, they're just trying, the government, Obama administration, they're trying to do everything they can to keep Trump from being in office. Now, this is an opinion. This isn't something God showed me. Okay, so let's just start with that. With what I understand myself from being a victim of mind control as a child and Illuminati connected sort of programming and techniques, and having come out of that and hearing others who have also come out of it, we kind of all had the same understanding and knowledge that the president, American presidents haven't been voted for by the people. They have not been put in office by the people who vote for them in a very long time. I mean, I was born in 1971, and my understanding very clearly was that all these presidents were decided well before, like, by those with the money and the Illuminati leadership. And it's a sad thing to think that that's true, but I believe it's true. Uh, when Joni Stahl was shown or was told that Trump had been decided to be president years ago, when I heard that, I believed it. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense because of some other things that I know. And then other things that other people who've gotten out of the Illuminati have said about elections. So it doesn't make sense to me that Obama doing this is an attempt to get Trump out of office because he probably knows himself, you know, that Trump's been chosen to have that seat of power already. Um, Now, I don't know exactly what that means. What Obama's uh, doing with this whole thing with Russia. Maybe if it's God showed me that it was a true attack. Maybe he believes that and he wants to really deal with it. It is a serious crime. I mean, if Iran had done it, we wouldn't have thought twice of it. If ISIS had hacked our election, we wouldn't think twice about retaliating and taking that very seriously. And I also don't have a problem with them taking time to bring that information forward because Russia is a true contender for the United States. They're a big nation. They're strong. We don't want to go to war with them. And I think they're bringing out the information. This is my personal opinion. I think there's a really good chance that they're making sure they've got all of the information together and right before they really present it. But we will know next week. And we have to pray about whatever it is that they say because we live in the days when we can't really trust anybody. We can't trust media. We can't trust politicians. We can trust God. So let's go to him in prayer for our nation. Let's go to him in prayer for Christians everywhere, for all nations. That God's will is done. God's will is truly done. And God bless you.